Somewhere in the dust, a story was buried, and today we're the first to call its name. You sit alone on the porch of a broken ranch house, boots up on a crate labeled Calico Trading Co. The wind hasn't spoken in hours, and the desert sky has forgotten what clouds look like. There's a dry stillness to the land, so dry even the vultures fly quieter. The crate rocks once. You freeze. There's no breeze strong enough to tip that thing. You hadn't ordered anything alive, or so you thought. Then it happens again. A soft knock. Then a sound that doesn't belong in the world of splinters and saddle leather. A cry, high-pitched, raw, fragile. You kick the boots off and pry the lid open like a coffin. Inside a wool blanket, a broken bottle of milk, and a baby with eyes too wide for this cruel earth. Pale skin, tuft of black hair, wrapped in torn hide, not cotton. Markings on the cloth, not English. Not freight codes. Tribal. Apache, maybe? Or older. He doesn't wail again. He stares. And for a moment, you feel the air thin, like the land just realized something ancient had returned. What you see at the end of this video may change how you view history forever. You step back. No note, no name. Just the baby. And a coin placed beneath his tongue. Silver, uncirculated, stamped with the year 1846, 2 years before gold was found in California. But the boy is warm, alive, new. So before we step into this strange story, hit like and subscribe. But only if you truly love cowboy mysteries, native legends, and the women who once disappeared into the canyons without a trace. Comment your location and what time you're watching. I want to know where you are on this earth or beyond. Take a deep breath, clear your thoughts, and let's open the stories that were never meant to be called stories. You carry the baby inside. He doesn't cry again, not that night. You warm goat's milk, then rain water. He takes neither, only suckles on the edge of your sleeve until sleep finds him. You try not to name him, but he looks like someone you lost in a fire long ago. So you call him Ash. He grows quiet, not sickly, just observing. His eyes follow birds like he knows their names. At 3 days in, you notice the way coyotes circle the perimeter of the barn at night, but never cross. They smell him, and they're afraid. You write to the trading company. No reply. You ride 2 towns over, speak to the station master. He looks at your receipt and then your face. There ain't no calico trading anymore, he says. Went under 5 winters back. Fire took the warehouse, burned straight through the records. Nobody ships from there now. You leave without a word, but the wind starts to pick up again on your ride home. Ash's presence seems to draw the dust upward, like old secrets trying to breathe again. By the time he's 2 weeks old, the sheriff's wife visits. You never invited her? No one visits this far out. She brings a bottle of goat's milk pressed into your hands without looking at the boy. You best raise him quiet, she whispers. Some sounds ain't meant to grow up. She leaves before the sun bends. You wrap Ash tighter that night, singing an old trail song beneath your breath. But the fire dies faster than usual. Cold seeps into the floorboards. And for the first time since he arrived, you hear something outside that isn't an animal. A voice, 1 word, found. Ash doesn't age like other children. By the end of the first month, he's crawling toward the fire as if it were calling him back. You stop him gently, but his eyes flicker amber in the firelight, like coal remembering its burn. You feed him boiled oats. He takes them with patience, always watching, never babbling. It's not that he can't speak. You begin to suspect he's just listening to something you can't hear. On the 5th Sunday, a storm rolls in from the north, strange, because there hadn't been rain in over 2 months. It brings no water, only wind and static that makes your cattle nervous and your lanterns blink. That night, you dream of hoofbeats. But when you wake, there are none, only Ash sitting upright in his crib, pointing toward the window. There's no one there, until there is. A figure cloaked in duster and silent stands at the fence. His hat is tipped too low to see his face, but he doesn't move, not for minutes. You go out, rifle loose in your grip, but by the time your boots hit the porch, the man is gone. Only a single arrow sticks upright in the dirt, where he stood bone-carved, bound in twine, marked with a red handprint near the tip. The arrow hums softly in your hand. A vibration, not sound. You store it beneath the floorboards. But that night, Ash won't sleep. He sits up watching the crack where you hit it. You try not to fear a child. But some nights, it feels like he's waiting to remember who he really is. At age 3, he draws in the dirt with uncanny precision. Circles, mountains, triangles within triangles. You recognize them, vaguely symbols you once saw carved into canyon walls far beyond your property line, long before settlers paved over stories. The townspeople start to whisper. The store clerk stops greeting you. The saloon stops pouring when you enter. They've seen the boy, and maybe they've seen what follows him. One morning, you find a dead bird on your porch, not mauled, laid gently, feathers side up, eyes missing. Ash walks past it like it was meant to be there. You teach him to ride. He grips the reins without fear, leaning forward into the wind. You take him out into the desert toward the old ridge once known to Apaches as the place where bones speak. A place most won't ride near, but he does. And when you stop to set up camp beneath the moon, Ash finds something you didn't see, a buried wooden doll, its head split in two, its body wrapped in hide. He says nothing, just places it at the edge of the fire, like it belongs there. That's the night you see the stars shift. Not metaphorically, literally. The Big Dipper slides south. Orion disappears behind a cloud that never moves. And the moon turns a faint copper, even though it isn't harvest season. Ash hums, low, almost a growl. You tell yourself it's just imagination, too many cold nights, too few warm meals. But in the morning, all your cattle face east, as if waiting for something to come walking. You start carving a hidden room into the cellar, just in case. You never believed in ghosts. You still don't. But there's a spirit in that boy, one not entirely his. One you've started talking to at night when he sleeps. Who sent you, you ask the shadows, but the shadows don't answer. Until the day a small bundle arrives on your porch wrapped in black cloth, tied with a deer bone. Inside a single silver ring, bent engraved with one word, ours. You look up. And across the distant ridge, a rider appears again. Same hat. Same silence, but this time he doesn't vanish. This time he waits. You don't call for the sheriff. You saddle your horse instead. Ash now 5 watches from the porch. He holds the silver ring you gave him, turning it over like he's reading something inside it that you can't see. You whisper that you'll be back before sundown, though you're not sure that's a promise you can keep. The rider waits unmoving atop the ridge. As you approach, your horse begins to breathe heavy, like the air's thicker up here, like the dust has teeth. But the man doesn't move till you're close enough to hear the leather of his gloves creak. You call out, you the one who sent that ring? No answer, just a slow raise of the chin. And finally a voice that sounds like gravel soaked in blood. She belongs to them now. You ask who she is. He doesn't answer. Just reaches under his coat, pulls something out, wrapped in buckskin. He tosses it to the ground between you, a small bonnet. Faded, torn, stitched with a pattern you've only seen once before on the cloth that wrapped Ash when he arrived. And suddenly your memory flashes back. The night Ash came, the blanket he lay in had a corner burned away. But you remember now beneath that scorch was a name. Faint. Nearly gone. Little doe. You dismount, kneel. The rider watches. You ask him, is this his sister? The man's jaw tightens. That child you're raising ain't alone. A second figure steps from behind a rock. Not a man. A girl no older than 7. Hair, tangled eyes wild. She doesn't blink. She doesn't speak. But she stares at you like she knows your name in a language older than sound. She's been waiting, the man says. But the others ain't so patient. Before you can ask what he means, a crow lands on his shoulder, eyes white. Not blind, just emptied. The rider mounts again, tips his hat, and says, "Come sundown, decide who you ride with." Her kin, or the ones who think she was stolen. Then they vanish down the other side of the ridge. You ride home fast. Ash is standing in the yard. He doesn't run to you. He just looks over your shoulder like he already knows what happened. You ask him if he remembers anything. He says nothing. Just raises one arm and points west toward the hills where the red stone glows even under moonlight. You build a fire that night. A real one. Big. Like the old war fires you saw in the stories. You place the bonnet at its edge. Ash sits beside you, silent, until he whispers a single word. Return. At dawn, the sky hangs low heavy with an orange haze. You decide to ride toward the ridge again. But before you do, you find a knife on your porch stone blade handle wrapped in braided black hair. Attached is a strip of parchment. Written in the same ink you found on the doll weeks ago. Blood is memory. Memory demands. You bury the knife. You shouldn't have. Because that night you hear a girl scream from beneath your floorboards. You dig. There's nothing. Only the arrow you once hid there, now split in half. Ash doesn't wake. But in his sleep, he says another word. Bonefire. You don't know if it's a name, a place, a command. But it echoes long after his breathing quiets. And in the distance, where the rider vanished, a line of fire dances across the hills like someone walking the edge of the world with a torch. You sleep with your rifle loaded. But in the morning, someone has carved a symbol into your barn door. A spiral of thorns. Inside it, the shape of a baby, swaddled in feathers. You touch it, it's still warm. The next time you blink, you see a woman standing in your pasture, long braids, copper skin, dressed in old leathers. She holds a necklace in her hand. It's made of the same hair you buried with the knife. She doesn't speak, but her eyes are ashes. The woman stands unmoving, framed by the dawn mist curling off the plains. You don't walk toward her. Something in your bones tells you not to, not yet. She's not here to speak. Not with words, anyway. Ash wakes just before the sun hits full steps outside barefoot and says nothing when he sees her. He just breathes deep like something sacred just returned. Then walks straight to her. You stiffen. But she kneels, wraps her arms around him, not like a stranger finding a lost child. Like a mother reclaiming what grief buried, her lips pressed to his forehead. She whispers a string of syllables that dance like wind through canyon stones. And then just as quickly, she lets go. You open your mouth to demand who she is. But she speaks first. You weren't supposed to open the crate. Her voice is wind-worn, rich with age that isn't visible on her face. She looks barely older than 20, but carries the weight of centuries in her spine. You ask if she's Ash's mother. She shakes her head. No. His mother passed with the eclipse. I am what remains. You press further. Who sent him? Why? Here? Why you? She lifts her chin toward the distant ridge where smoke begins to rise. Not from a campfire, but a line of flames sweeping unnaturally across the brush. The ones who hunted his blood still walk, she says. They saw you break the silence. They heard the crate open. They know he breathes. You ask her name. She says nothing. Just removes the necklace and places it in Ash's hand. Then walking past you, she brushes your shoulder and whispers, "The truth is not buried. It's been watching." That night, you flip through an old journal left by your father, buried beneath saddle blankets and a tin box of bullets. You hadn't opened it in years. The cover crackles in your hands. You flip to a map, hand-sketched. marked with names of rivers long since dried up. But in the top corner, faint and smudged, Bonefire Canyon. You stare. It's not a word Ash could have known, not a word anyone in town uses. It's not even on official records. You trace the canyon's path. It runs straight beneath your ranch. You ride out next morning. Ash rides with you holding the necklace. The wind changes. Cooler, but electric. The kind of cold that comes before a funeral. At the canyon's mouth, the ground splits into jagged stone. Vultures circle. There's no sign of the woman. But Ash climbs down on his own, as if he's walked this path 1,000 lifetimes. You follow, and after an hour's descent, you reach it. A stone circle, old, uncut, lined with feathers, bones, ash, and dolls. Dozens, all facing inward. In the center, a small grave, unmarked, except for the ring of red sand around its sand that glows faintly as you approach. Ash kneels, places the necklace at the base of the grave. You ask him, "Do you know who this is?" He nods. "She died to bring me here." You feel your throat tighten. You ask him how he knows. He looks up calm. She hums in the floor at night. The canyon wind kicks up. Dust twists into a column above the grave. And then, for just a moment, a sound like humming fills the canyon. Melancholy? Maternal. That's when you see them. Figures watching from the rim of the canyon. Women, men, children, dressed in hides and bone, faces painted in ritual black, eyes full of sorrow, not rage. The forgotten. You recognize none, but feel you've known all of them. Ash reaches for your hand. "They want to come back," he says, "but only if the world remembers." The next morning, you return home. There's a fire burning in your barn. You run, but find no smoke, no heat, only ash, piled neatly in the center. Inside it, a handprint, small, childlike, glowing faintly. And outside your ranch fence, fresh hoofprints, leading toward town. You follow the hoofprints. They curve wide through the brush, veering past your usual cattle trail and into a path that shouldn't exist. Trees lean the wrong way. Rocks look placed, not fallen, like someone rearranged the land when no one was watching. The tracks split halfway, one set large, deep, the other much smaller. Ashes. You don't panic, not at first. The boy moves with strange purpose, like he hears a melody the rest of the world missed. But as the sun climbs high and the trail begins to vanish into shifting sand, your heart starts beating louder than your boots. By the time you reach the edge of town, you find them. A crowd, huddled around the old chapel, murmuring. Sheriff Weller stands near the door hat, clutched against his chest like a funeral's underway. You push through, and you see her, the woman from the pasture. She stands calmly at the pulpit. No weapons, no shame. Her braids fall over a worn leather vest, etched with symbols no settler here has ever seen. In her arms, Ash sleeps, peaceful. His head rests against her shoulder as if it had always belonged there. Weller doesn't stop you when you walk forward. "She came in through the graveyard," he mutters. "Didn't speak a word. Folks say she walked like thunder in moccasins." You call out to her. She turns slowly. "This place forgot," she says, but he didn't. You reach for Ash. She hesitates, then hands him over. His eyes flutter open. "You found us," he whispers. "Not me, us." Then in front of the whole town, the woman kneels. Slowly, reverently, and speaks in clear English, "Forgive what we left buried." That's when the ground shakes. Not much, just a tremor, but enough to make the chapel's old chandelier swing. Dust falls from the beams, and through the broken stained glass behind the altar, a low sound rolls in from the hills. Drums, faint but steady, like war or ceremony. You rush outside, and you see them, riders, 10 of them, bareback, painted faces, some old, some young. A few wear blue coats, torn and blood-streaked. Uniforms of a war no one won. One holds a staff made of twisted cedar and rusted metal as cross between rifle and relic. They don't charge. They wait. The townsfolk don't know whether to pray or run. You walk out past the fence line, Ash still in your arms. The woman follows silent. A rider dismounts. He's tall. Apache, or what's left of that name. His left eye is milky, but the right burns with something ancient. Around his neck hangs a coin. Silver, 8 and 46, same as the one you found in Ash's mouth. He lifts a hand, not in threat, but greeting, then says, "We gave him to silence. You gave him to story. Now they must choose." You ask who they are. He points to the graveyard, to the hills, to the wind itself. Every child that vanished, every mother who never wept, every truth swallowed by fences and smoke. You ask what happens if you refuse. He smiles, not unkind. Then the land keeps its curse, and the boy forgets who sang him here. Ash tugs at your collar. Let them speak. The air grows still, so still even the church bell shivers. Then the girl Little Doe steps from behind one of the riders. Not a vision, not a ghost. Real, eyes wide, bonnet torn, holding the doll Ash found in the canyon. She walks to him. He reaches out, and the second their fingers touch, the town vanishes, not physically, but in memory. You blink, and for a moment you're standing in a field. No buildings, no chapel, no townsfolk. Just you, Ash the woman, and a circle of riders. A vision, the land as it was before. Ash lets go, and the world snaps back. You fall to your knees. Everything is the same, but nothing is, because now everyone remembers, even those who wish they hadn't. The town doesn't speak of that day, not openly. A week passes. Then 2. The sheriff retires early. The saloon closes before sundown now. Mothers keep their children close when the wind blows from the canyon. You fix the barn roof. Patch up the corral. Ash helps. He hums while he works old tunes, ones you've never taught him. You let him. Something about the rhythm makes the cattle calm. But when the woman leaves, she doesn't take him. No farewell, no instructions. Just a bundle placed on your porch, 3 carved dolls bound in black cloth and a feather braided with a silver strand of hair. Ash finds it first, says they left a memory. You ask what that means. He replies simply, so we don't forget again. Then he draws a circle in the dirt. Steps inside it. Waits. You join him. And for the first time, he speaks in full sentences, in a language that chills your spine. Not because it's frightening, but because it sounds like wind-rustling stories off canyon walls. That night, you light a fire using cedar and sage, just like she showed you. Ash stands beside it, lifts the coin from his old blanket, and tosses it into the flame. It doesn't melt. It hums, glows, then vanishes into a burst of cold ash. Later, someone knocks at your door. You don't expect anyone. A woman stands there, pale dress, red scarf. She looks familiar, but her face is all wrong, like someone remembered her from a dream and sketched it too quickly. She holds a baby in her arms, silent, wrapped in burlap. She asks if this is Bonefire Ranch. You don't answer. She says she was told you take in the forgotten. She holds out the child, doesn't wait. And when your hands brush hers, she vanishes. Just like that. No wind, no sound, just gone. Only the baby remains. And a note written in shaky hand. Second crate, same story. You don't sleep that night. You sit by the hearth, watching Ash sleep beside the new baby already curled around it, like they belong to the same chapter. Outside, coyotes howl but never come close. The next morning, you wake to find symbols carved into your barn door again. Not spirals this time. Hands, dozens, all different sizes. Some tiny, some scarred, some with fingers missing, all pointing west. Ash walks outside, stares for a long time, then says, "It's happening again." You ask, "What is?" He answers, "The remembering." You ask what you should do. He looks at you with a calmness too old for a child. "Tell it true." You look out toward the horizon, toward the hills where the fires once walked. You feel it in your bones, the sense that this isn't the end. It never was. You were just the first fool who dared to open a box that wasn't meant for you. The child whimpers in the crib. Ash picks her up, rocks her gently, whispers to her in that same unknown tongue. And from the chimney, a column of smoke rises. Not gray, not black, but deep red, and on its edges, the shape of a face. Watching. Not malevolent, not kind. Just waiting. The wind shifts. Brings with it the scent of sage blood and something sweet. Something like home. You start keeping journals again. Not for yourself, but for whoever comes next. The land is shifting. Old things are surfacing. Bones are rising where wheat once grew. And stories, the ones whispered by grandmothers before sleep, are crawling back into the world through children's dreams. Ash turns 6. He speaks less, listens more. You find him kneeling often at the edge of the fields, pressing his ear to the dirt. Sometimes he tells you the ground hums with names. The new baby, her name comes without effort. You don't choose it. It chooses you. Juniper. And every time the coyotes howl, she coos. She grows faster than Ash ever did. By spring she walks. By summer she runs. But it's her laugh that shakes you most. It sounds like someone you lost long ago. A sound you forgot you remembered. The woman hasn't returned. But you feel her everywhere on the wind, in the rhythm of rain, in the songs Ash hums that have no origin. You see her in the reflections on your water barrel, in the way Juniper tilts her head at twilight. You start carving a totem fence. Feathers, bones, buttons from coats nobody's worn in 100 years. You place a carved doll on every post, each one different. The townsfolk keep away, but they whisper. They say your barn glows some nights, that riders pass through without making dust, that screams echo from your well, but always in a lullaby's rhythm. You don't deny it. One night Ash wakes you. It's time. You follow him out to the canyon where the circle once stood. But now it's gone. In its place, a single crate, unmarked, silent. You kneel, press your ear to it. Nothing. You open it. And inside, only ash. A letter written in a curling hand-scrawled script. We are not forgotten. You close the crate gently, lift it in your arms, and begin walking toward the hills. Because some stories aren't finished. They're waiting to be carried. The sun dips low, staining the sky in amber and rust. You walk slower now. Not from age, but reverence. Like you're afraid to crush something holy beneath your boots. Behind you, Juniper sings softly. Ahead, Ash walks with purpose, steady, silent, as if each step carves a new line into the memory of the land. You reach the crest of the ridge. The wind stops. Everything stills. And below you, the valley breathes. You see them, not clearly, not fully, but enough. Silhouettes of forgotten children dancing in rings. Women in feathered shawls lighting fires with their breath. Cowboys tipping hats to warriors once called enemies. And in the center, a baby lifted to the sky, wrapped in hide, cradled by hands that span centuries. Ash places the crate gently on the ground. Juniper laughs once, and the figures vanish. You don't cry, you just nod. And as the stars blink awake, the canyon opens one last time. Wide, endless red as memory. You don't step forward. You wait. You listen. And somewhere beneath it all, the earth exhales. Perhaps tonight the sky no longer watches. Perhaps they're waiting for someone to close it.